What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to My Social Life. This is the podcast where you can hear the life stories behind the people on social media. I'm your host, Jacob Kelly. As always, today's podcast is powered by TRUFAN. And today is an episode of The Social Report. And The Social Report is a monthly podcast in conjunction with TRUFAN where we sit down and talk to you about some of the most interesting influencer marketing and social media news from the last 30 days. As always, today I am joined by TRUFAN CMO Karen O'Brien and TRUFAN advisor Scott Birdie. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey, thank you.
My pleasure. We're going to start today. We're going to start with YouTube, the story that I found. And we've kind of talked a little bit in the past on these social reports about social selling and live stream selling and how big of a deal it is in China. And I think the stat I found was it's on track to become a $423 billion market in China alone by the end of 2022. So clearly there's a lot of success happening over there. So they're trying to bring that consumer behavior here to North America. And so we've seen Amazon has jumped into the fray. They have Amazon selling. TikTok's done it, which makes sense because TikTok will be based in China. So they see everything happening there, bring it over here to North America. So TikTok's done some stuff. I think Facebook's jumped in. And now the latest is YouTube. So YouTube's testing live stream. It's not available to everybody yet. I think right now it's kind of like invite only by YouTube, and they're working with specific creators. So they put out a blog post about it. And so I have a quote from it here. It says, we recently partnered with several top YouTube creators to test our new live shopping features, including Simply Naillogical, who launched her new nail polish collection to 2.8 million fans. And that's unlike her secondary channel. I think it wasn't on her primary, but still 2.8 million fans. And Hiram, who dropped his selfless skincare line to 4.5 million fans. And I think what's interesting there is that in this blog post, they're highlighting the number of followers that these people have to show that the audience is already built in when you come to YouTube. And so one of the things that they're trying to kind of really sell on people reading this blog post is that the reason you want to do social selling on YouTube is because these creators already have an audience and they have a relationship. So like they included a stat here that said YouTube says that 89% of viewers agree that YouTube creators give recommendations they can trust. So this whole blog post is, yes, we're doing social selling, but they were kind of like seeding it with why YouTube is the go-to platform for the built-in audience these creators have and the trust factor that they already have. And so they tested it, like I said, with a couple creators. They also tested it with some retailers, Walmart, Sephora, Target, namely, are some of the big three that they've worked with. Quote from Walmart's chief marketing officer, William White, saying, "We think about YouTube as a connector to our customers, reaching people through inspiration, entertainment, and creativity." And so that's kind of where they're at now. They're going to be testing a couple more coming up here for their YouTube holiday stream and shop. Kicks off in just on November 15th, which again, more shoppable live streams. Fan will be able to score new products, unlock limited time offers, and get their product question answered through live Q&A and polls with creators and other viewers. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview on YouTube's live social selling. And what I find is interesting with this is I feel like YouTube's strength has always been video on demand. I can always find what I want, watch it when I want. But now these new live streams, it kind of changes that equation, almost reverts back to the traditional TV model where to truly get the experience, you have to be there in the moment. And now I'm curious if you think we're going to see a lot of adoption with these live streams or have we just shifted so far from video on demand that it's not going to get picked up as much as other places like China?
I can jump in first. I think in some ways there's probably like this is the first frontier, if you will, right? If you're YouTube of shopping and the iterations of the product that will come to be. Like I think to move to the last part about what you said first, it's on demand for like the vast majority of their viewers and the vast majority of their videos. And I'm sure that's where shopping will end up. It's not going to be like a, live only. And that's where it sort of cuts off, if you will. I'd imagine that within a few years, like we're going to start to see those on-demand unboxing videos and, all of those types of very impactful brand partnerships that you see on YouTube now, just coupled with live shopping and the ability to sort of embed your product directly into the video is sort of like a tangible experience that you can get from watching it. Beyond that, I sort of think right now about their current live, like the landscape of live streams for YouTube in particular. And I think they have one advantage, or at least a slight competitive advantage over the likes of TikTok and such, because while brands are moving to TikTok to take advantage of the sort of craze and attention that has been basically just catapulted on that platform. Like YouTube has steadily had tons and tons of attention from diehard fans, like you said, that have an existing relationship with those creators. But even more so than that, YouTube directly has partnerships with a lot of corporate level brands. And I think of WSL obviously stands out because I believe YouTube is somehow involved with their live streaming capabilities and their ability to sort of put broadcast video on their website in the way that they can in a live stream. And typically those events will duplicate live stream on YouTube up until one of the last rounds of the competition, where it's sort of like anybody who was watching would really want to watch those final rounds. And so that's when they'll kind of push them towards the platform. So they have to go make a WSL account. And I think that's really where, both companies are getting a ton of value from that. And if you look at how you can embed shopping, if you're YouTube on your platform versus, on WSL's website, most likely, then viewers actually have a slightly better experience, for those first umpteen rounds of the actual tournament or the competition. So it's sort of interesting how they can increase the sort of like viewer experience for some of these like brand partners that they already have. And I guess like lastly, I'll just touch on because it's recent. Over the weekend, I was watching a live YouTube event, and it was the Tampa Pro, which is basically a skateboard event that happens every year in Tampa, same location, tons of pro skaters. And it's everywhere on social, but this is, I think, the first time I was ever personally able to watch it live. Or you can go back and then sort of track the live streams after they've happened. So, like, that is a perfect example of how brands could really capture such high interest, during a moment when the athletes are exposing their sort of brand partnerships in a non-aggressive way, in a way where it's just like you're getting to see all the athletes, and particularly the ones that you probably look up to the most, and buy literally what they're wearing, at that moment on the skateboard, or like the grip tape that they're using. And so like those types of applications, I I just don't feel like I see that when I think about like Facebook or TikTok. Like they don't really have those opportunities just yet because of the long form content.
I mean, I think you've touched on a couple of things, Scott, there that are important. I think those are events that we would normally be willing to make sure that we come in for live, right? Like we would be willing to watch live versus look at the archived live, right? We all know that live events in general get way more views after the live than they do during the live. Part of that is because we have lives outside of those, outside of the viewing times when streamers and even events want to stream. But I would also say time zones. I mean, that's a factor too. Like, are you really going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch something that might be in Europe that's streaming? I don't know. Maybe you're a big enough fan, but I think at some point it becomes almost unmanageable, right? So I think that that if creators are going to start doing live shopping, there's certainly going to be value in that, but I think they better be bringing something unique. Like they better be bringing a designer to the table, or they're dropping like a limited edition collection, or there's something unique about it, right? It's not just, hey, we're going live. I think that they're highly trusted, but I think if they want the actual live shopping experience to sell out during the live, that's what they'll need to do. But then again, I don't know if that's the goal. The goal could be, do more live shopping experiences to show, some interesting unscripted kind of merchandise and ways of going about shopping, and maybe a more interactive with people that are actually live with you in the live stream versus having a more scripted video. I mean, you look at Amazon all day long and look at the views, like how many people are on Amazon live videos watching it live and buying? Very few, right? Versus how many people are watching it after.
I guess with live selling though, would most people tuning in not be there? Like, would they be easy people to sell to? Like, if they come to a live stream where they know it's to be sold to, like that you don't necessarily need the same view count as other live stream content, because you don't need as many people because you're only looking for those that are willing to convert.
Yeah, or maybe it's a limited edition drop that you're doing, right? But I also think there's great tools like Comment Sold that are making it super easy. You literally just comment that you want to buy something and they'll follow up with a link. Like it's super, super, super easy, and they take the friction out of the whole process. But I think if you want to scale that as a creator, if you want to drop a couple 100,000 of something, then you're going to need to, you know,
Ramp up your promotional efforts and really be tactical. Yeah, sounds like it. I mean, you bring up a really good point. I think just on the creator side alone, like there's so many ways that creators could look at this and go like, how am I going to capitalize? I guess like where do I believe there's the most room to capitalize and maybe monetize? Like when I say that, um, and I guess like two sides could be, one like you just talked about. Does a creator have their own brand potentially, or you know, like it could be a real brand, some sort of skincare brand, one of the big influencers, or it could be a slightly smaller influencer. They just have some sort of clothing or merch brand, but the limited nature of drops has always been like a seller or a characteristic of what sells, especially online. And so like you could use that approach, right? Like who knows what videos when you go live will actually include a limited drop, but attend the lives because on every one in a few, there's going to be that like limited time drop. But on the other hand, you could be an influencer and say, hey, I'm going to capitalize on this through brand partnerships. And I'm actually not going to sell much on my videos other than when I get hit up with like the greatest offer because they know there's going to be a high demand, a high viewership since I don't sell to my audience constantly. You know what I mean? Like you could view it from so many sides of the coin.
yeah, you could build up a live streaming audience if you had regular streaming and you maybe acknowledged, interacted, and maybe gave something of value to people who showed up in the live stream.
Yeah. Like does YouTube still do gaming or is there like a separate component that's involved with gaming as
Yeah.
Yep,
well?
yep, they
So
do.
that's an area where I'm sure that'll be applied. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess part of the appeal for YouTube live streams is the access. Because if it is a smaller audience tuning in, like you might be able to get like one-on-one interactions with your favorite creator, which you might not get elsewhere. Even if it's a non-selling live stream where a lot of people are tuning in, it's still hard to get through the noise. So if it's a smaller audience and that influencer interacts with you one-to-one, like that probably increases the likelihood you're also going to purchase something as well from that live stream if they're talking to you directly.
Yeah. I've never been a fan, for example, of like the QVCs or the shopping network, but I can see how it could be appealing, So that's to me what we're seeing here. But I will say that I love the way that they do it in Asian countries more. I think they're super innovators in that way. Way more entertaining.
Do you think we'll see adoption here the same way it's been adopted over there? Because I remember you first put social selling on my radar like over a year ago now, Karen. You were talking about it. You're like, look what they're doing in China. Look at this. And I was like, all right, let me look at this. And now it's like it's happening. You were calling the shot way before it happened. So I'm curious if you think we'll see a similar adoption.
I mean, maybe. I think though that they're always going to be leaders just in this area because they're so far ahead. And the audience is used to it now. Very, I think amenable to it.
The buying behavior is a big deal always. It's like, even if I have the opportunity to buy these like limited pair of sneakers in the next 45 seconds, like do I have the ability to like just pull the trigger?
Yeah.
True, yeah. In the moment there. But Scott, I'll pass it off to you now with Spotter.
Yeah, I figured I'd bring up this article, and it actually works pretty well in tandem with what we just talked about, I'd say. Spotter had an article come out with Fast Company this past month that just sort of talked about their growth over the past few years, and the fact that they've contributed about 200 million in funding towards deals that involved about 113, I believe, YouTube channels. So you can average that out for an average deal size yourself. But yeah, what they do is specifically buy back catalogs of YouTube channels that they've predicted to eventually be worth X amount in ad revenue over the course of a year. So they basically will front load about 80%, or I think that's their sort of zone that they aim for is roughly 80% of what a creator would make by a certain time from X amount of videos that are old videos, not like, not ones they just launched or whatever. So taking an old catalog of videos and then they make the money, they front load the creators, and the creators then have, the cash up front to either invest in businesses or potentially just invest more in themselves and increasing their own footprint. So why I thought it was interesting was one, on the notion of influencers basically becoming businesses and being, ultimately the future of commerce in some degree. When you're looking at the creator economy, it's worth something in the estimate of 100 billion now. This is 2 years past the point when I think it was near 20 billion or kind of reaching that phase. And now these types of financing options are coming into play that really support the fact that influencers are businesses that are waiting to happen. And so one, it's like, does it essentially become part of like you're like a startup if you're trying to grow your account on TikTok right now? Because the time that it takes to put in to grow an audience is basically just trying to get to that other side where you can consistently monetize like a YouTube channel over the course of a year to then put you into these categories and have that opportunity. Like, what do you think this means for creators and like the potential creator economy going forward?
Well, on the notion of them being startup, I think every creator is a business at the end of the day. Like, I just think there's so many, like the amount of work that goes into it, the amount of management that happens, the amount of money that can be made, the amount of different ways money can be made. Like, you are a business at the end of the day. I think that spotter business model is interesting. So, do they own the videos like outright forever, or is it like for a certain period of time?
Period of time. It's like a contract essentially. So they buy the
They're
rights.
licensing them.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Like, there's a lot of bad content out there. My concern would be as a creator, like, where's it going to get placed?
I know. I mean, there's a lot of spot like things that I wonder, but I think like creators' impression of it so far, at least from what I can tell, is sort of they almost perceive the deal to be too good, because a lot of this video content, like they're sort of unaware about like you know how that's actually contributing to their overall ad revenue and those types of things. And I think a lot of them are sort of unaware of these old videos can actually still monetize at such a high level. And so they sort of use AI or, their technology tells them, predicts what sorts of videos or which creators are actually going to be profitable and are, making a rough amount over the next little while. And really what this is like, you think of, I forget their rebranded name, like Clearco. Um, it's like applying a similar type of notion just directly to creators.
I think it's great for creators, but I would also say there's probably another issue here, which is a ton of creators don't monetize their channel with the exception of ads once in a while, right? And so they're using royalty-free music and overlays and all sorts of stuff that is, the licensing is sometimes a bit wonky on it. And so somebody buys all those videos, where's it going to end up? And it's being monetized.
Is this licensing deal, is this exclusively for the rights to earn the ad revenue, or can you do other things with it? You know what I mean? Like,
as far as I'm aware, I think there's boundaries for sure. Like, I don't think you can do whatever you want if you're the company who's actually owning the rights at that point. But it's mainly due to the ad revenue, as far as I'm aware. And another part of this is like they realized that ad revenue actually wasn't a consistent form of revenue for most creators, particularly on YouTube. Or, if you were, I think there's a stat in the article that sort of references if you've been creating a channel for over 4 years, that your average sort of income based on ads is somewhere in the range of like just over 20K or something like that, which it's nowhere near, I think, what it used to be. And so if you're, I guess like I'll pull up the Dude Perfect example and just sort of read this out, but just think about like if you're a business from that standpoint, if you're a creator, your business, you have to look ahead and just go like, well, I can either invest in myself when I've made X amount of profits from these ad engines. So I guess I'll just have to keep pushing, pumping money and my time into this content engine. Or I can front load my capital a little bit, minus, a bit of risk and losing out on potentially 20% over the longer term to invest in growing my business now. And so like a good example is this Dude Perfect. So Cody Jones, 1/5 of the group Dude Perfect, says that their spotter deal has allowed them to invest in several businesses as well as expanding their own, with plans to create a headquarters in Texas that would double as an experiential location for fans. So that the type of thing as a YouTube or not even as a creator, but as a brand that you really wouldn't have the money to invest in to turn your brand into like to kind of take it to the next level, if you will, build experiential into your brand. And he says, it's been one of those deals where we'd love to have the cash on hand now to get our money working, like an investor per se. But versus in the past, we were like, let's just wait until the ad revenue rolls up and keep running the business that way. So it's giving them a bit more flexibility.
I'd love to see what those licensing deals look like, because I also feel like there's a there's a shelf life to some of that content. So why not take advantage of it?
It's like the closest thing almost to like venture capital for creators. Like I've always, because I feel like that's naturally going to happen. I know Mr. Beast was looking to like buy a small creators channel, like invest a certain amount of percentage, but I was like, how does that work? Because like when you're investing in a business, you're investing to eventually be able to sell that off and then everyone gets their returns. But with a creator, you can't sell off yourself. You know what I mean? So like, I was curious because I knew venture capital was going to eventually become two individual creators, but like, how do you cap that? What does it look like? I think this is like the closest comparable, like the closest model I've seen so far to people being able to invest in creators. Like if you can identify like Spotter, or if you have a different business that isn't Spotter, identify a smaller creator who you think is going to explode, you could buy licensing deals to their old videos and then that account explodes and you get higher returns. So I think that's just interesting.
Yeah, I think something to be said around like, even if relate this back to like a startup, a classic example would be like, hey, maybe you're a CEO who sort of gets the company to a certain point, and you have these offers coming at you to sort of buy your company, if you will. And you know, maybe deep down that like you can get your company to that point eventually, or like you might be the person who can get it there, but you don't know for sure how long that'll take, the sort of risks that are associated with going down that road. Whereas if you just sort of sell, you'll have that money up front. You can invest it into what means you prefer. It's really just the same sort of thing. It's like a lot of these influencers, I'm sure, knew how to create content. And that's sort of what resulted in like turning them into a business. But then it's like business people saying, hey, we know that your content is actually going to monetize because of the work that we've done here. So here, do what you need to do. Here's your cash up front. We'll take care of the business end of this kind of thing. And I mean, where there's money to be made for both sides, then it's going to be a profitable business outcome. So
My concern with that business model is like you're one algorithm change away from all your investment being nothing.
yeah,
Like
those businesses have to have an insanely close relationship with Google. And these are former Google execs or Googlers that like were working at YouTube, sort of like knew the engine inside and out. And we're like, this is an opportunity. This is a problem, that actually exists for creators that they can't see that needs to be solved. And so I totally agree, but they must have a kind of inside edge on like, where are things going? What's the future like?
is that an unfair advantage though? Like, does that become like, you know what I mean? Like, cause it's not like you're not playing the markets, but like, how like the YouTube, it's not a marketplace, but it's like,
It exists everywhere though.
yeah.
In every sort of
I'd
parallel.
love to see what those deals look like. I'd love to see if maybe there's a market for somebody like Clearco who, basically could be giving them a better deal, letting them keep more of their own equity or content. I don't know. I'm sure it's very individualized too. But does that mean we're going to have like the Dude Perfect channel on connected TV or something like, or you're going to be seeing like,
I mean, that's the thing, right? Is they're obviously recognizing that there's some future growth there, not that has to do with ads, but that is more than the guys are seeing themselves. And that's what their algorithm, the sort of SaaS product in the middle is telling them. So who knows what their little secret sauce is, but I imagine that they don't share those contracts with too many people either if they're planning on deploying another like 200 to 400 in the next few years.
And if I'm Spotter, like if you have this insight into the algorithm where you know what videos are going to keep going and are going to get picked up in the algorithm that you should invest there, like back to that smaller creator thing, then could you not identify creators whose type of content could get picked up in the algorithm and then get there super early? Because like if they're working with Dude Perfect, they're probably working with some of the bigger names. But like if you have such in-depth insight into the algorithm, you could probably spot who's going to blow up and then get even better returns if you partner with them.
Depends what their system is focused on, I suppose. Yeah.
I guess. Because I feel like if you go to like a smaller creator who you know is going to pop off and you go, hey, we'll pay you $60,000 a year for the next 2 years, you can create full time now, but we just get your ad revenue in return. Like I feel like a lot of small creators will take the guaranteed.
You probably are right, but there's also probably a risk, like just a general PR risk there for like that company. Is like, are you trying to help creators or are you trying to fuck over creators? You know what I mean? Like there's these creators that they're helping are obviously established enough, 113 channels, $200 million that like they're sort of saying, well, I'm going to cut my losses and just take the cash up front because I know I might make a little bit more, but like, I mean, just think about it too. What the guys said in Do Perfect, you cut 20% of what you might have made. But like, if you can invest now, I mean, that's the way I would look at it as a consumer. It's like, hey, if a bank was to give me a 0% or 0.1% like interest rate on a $25,000 line of credit, like I'll probably just go invest that in the S&P tomorrow because in the same amount of time, it's just the returns are going to be better. So that's investing in yourself, your business. Whatever.
Were you going to say something, Karen?
Karen's like, I got some investing wisdom.
No, I just thought of something this week that kind of I wasn't crazy about, which was that PayPal and Pinterest may become one company. And I love both of those companies. I love PayPal, I love Pinterest, but I just hate the thought of monetizing the experience over Pinterest anymore.
How would that work?
I don't know. I would assume it would become more eBay-like.
Is that like early speculation you saw in an article or something?
Yeah, I mean it's out there. They're making a pitch for Pinterest.
So like PayPal's trying to acquire Pinterest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, so will that be like just selling within Pinterest will be so much easier now? Like, is that kind of what they're thinking? Like, if they can have all the transactions happening on, like, if they can build.
This is interesting. I don't know. I'll look it up here, but this is very interesting. PayPal shares fall after news of Pinterest talks. They said it was a potential $45 billion deal. And it said basically it would be to basically capitalize on the digital payments, right? So basically, if you were going to buy something off of Pinterest or, like more of the social selling, but it would be processed through PayPal. But I just feel like, I don't know, that could become a very eBay-like experience very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I understand why PayPal's looking at Pinterest, because when you're going on Pinterest, there's a lot of buyer's intent there. Like, you're going there for inspiration. What should I buy? And if you can, like, instead of finding some person's blog where I then have to go to their blog and then scroll through their life story before getting to the actual meat and potatoes part of the blog to find, like, if that's all built into Pinterest, like, I think that could be more beneficial for consumers. But and I understand why PayPal wants to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, if I were Pinterest, I would be looking at, like, what am I going to lose with that? Why can't you just have a strategic partnership where you have like you lean into some sort of primary payments partnership with them versus, I don't know, maybe they need money. I don't know, but it just didn't seem like it seemed like it wasn't a fit to me.
Yeah. Yeah, because I would expect Shopify before I would have expected PayPal for something like that. And maybe this is PayPal's response to that, because Shopify's partnering with TikTok. I think
I think you're getting a little confused though, because technically, I mean, while Shopify might be the bigger partner name, Shopify's payment gateway is actually backed by Stripe. So,
fair.
Like that would be PayPal going like, we want to compete more with
Stripe
payment gateways, yeah, like SaaS or online payment. But that would be I don't know. Those don't, like, so many of the like acquisitions.
It felt like
now,
oil and water to me. It just felt like a weird like partnership that could have the potential to really ruin a great experience on a platform like Pinterest.
To your point about, like, if I was Pinterest, I think about those moments in like How I Built This podcast or whatever, where the founders are sort of like, I'm thinking of like succession of the brand and stuff like that. Like, I'd be wondering, like, how much longer is Pinterest staying Pinterest if it gets bought up by PayPal? I don't know. Who knows? That's an interesting one, though. Thanks for bringing that one up, Karen. I mean, in other random news, did anybody see how LinkedIn has clarified that they are going to get up and out of China as one of the final big American
when did that
social
happen?
platforms? Yeah, that was
Ooh.
news clarifying sometime middle of the month, I believe. They're getting prepared to vacate that office. And yeah, I mean, and Facebook shut down at the start of the month. So a lot of interesting stuff happening for the social platforms.
Wow.
I mean, I think we're going to see massive gutting of any kind of American or global social platforms there that are not China specific.
Did you see the piece about Facebook potentially changing its name as well there, Karen?
Yeah, I've heard that they're going to change it to Meta.
So is this going to be like a Google situation where it's Alphabet now owns Google and all those other companies, or is like when you go onto Facebook, is it going to be like Meta?
Apparently, it's a rebrand. Like, they're trying to go away from Facebook completely, because I think
why rebrand? Why do you think, like, that's the question?
Scrutiny over their brand.
Yeah, that's probably part of it. And I know they are going all in on the metaverse, like I've talked about it on here in the past, and they're hiring, kind of on the note of this rebrand, they announced they're hiring 10,000 new employees in the EU, all centered around the metaverse.
I think that's a huge risk. I think, for example, like, I don't know many people who use their Oculus headset on a regular basis. Like, people get it, they're kind of intrigued by it, and they don't use it. I don't know why. There's not a lot of games on it. To me, it isn't quite there yet in terms of the experience. So to go all in on the metaverse, I think it's pretty far out.
I think it expands. It's beyond just the Oculus. Like they just released their glasses with Oakley, that are their metaverse glasses. And like when I listened or I read an article that was a transcription of an hour-long podcast that I should have just listened to, but I read the entire thing. And it was an interview Mark did with The Verge about the metaverse and his whole thoughts behind it. And like for him, it's essentially like the digital world and the physical world kind of molding into one. I think we are very early, so I think their investment is to be one of those early players to capitalize, because they kind of look at it as like web, like beyond like Web3, almost like it's like the next iteration of the internet.
I mean, I have a lot of respect for the metaverse. Spent my 10,000 hours in, like, Second Life and stuff like that, but ultimately it has to be a better experience than in real life to keep you there, I think. There's a lot of speculation that they're rebranding at that level because, similar to Google or other massive rebrands, Mark Zuckerberg could name a CEO to that company, take a different sort of role, and then not have to go to Congress on a regular basis.
Sail off into his sunset somewhere in Kauai, basically. Yeah, something like.
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens, but
I also think if they rename Facebook Meta, like I feel like the metaverse is not even a publicly understood term yet.
That's what I mean. It's too early,
their
I
education.
think.
Yeah. I think renaming the whole I didn't realize like they were going to rebrand Facebook. I thought it was going to be like a Google Apple situation where they spin it out into multiple companies.
It's all speculation. There's only a few agencies that have probably known for years as they've been working on it. Other than that, I'd have to just a couple last stats to drop. 14% engagement increase on Netflix when Facebook dropped for one day. And I heard, I don't know percentage wise what it is to back this, but Snapchat, I heard, dealt with a massive wave of engagement. Like TRUFAN advisor Austin Eastman, who owns Kicks Media, he reported that one of their shows had a roughly like a 10x increase in the viewership when that happened.
Wow. Yeah. Not surprised.
Pretty wild. Yeah. Anyway.
Nothing lasts, right? I mean, this is the reality that nothing good lasts.
We're nearing an age that very few people thought might come. Facebook potentially ending. 5 years ago, it's like, wait, no, I'll be here forever.
I feel like we've been here before, though. You're downloading your Napster stuff, and then it's gone, and then you're in Second Life, and you're doing all this. Yeah, eventually everything that you love just goes. But hopefully something new and better will come along.
Man, we should have like a recount the internet history episode.
Yeah, stuff that was cool that's now gone.
I didn't get on the internet till later, like till like social networks and stuff. Like I never had AOL. My dad didn't let me have MSN. I wasn't on MySpace. Like I started on Facebook.
Wow.
That explains so much about you, Jacob.
Oh, wow. Thank you. But yeah, no, like it was, Facebook was I got it sneakily. I wasn't allowed to get it, but I got it anyways.
So does this feel even more impactful for you? Maybe
not really. I don't really use Facebook anymore. It's there for the memory. I get my memories. That's always fun.
Messenger. I mean, it's all part of the same family. WhatsApp. For some people, WhatsApp will be that ever went away would be a huge issue.
Internet, all internationals, like, and stuff like that, like just such a prime time way of communicating and staying in touch with families.
The angel investor in me says, though, like great opportunities, right? Like for somebody else to create something. Speaking of which, could we talk about surf a little bit? Like, I don't want to be too self-promoting here, but I do love what we've done with surf.
Of course, we just hit 10,000 users. So by all means, where do you want to go with surf here?
I mean, just maybe for those people who don't know what it is, it's basically a new browser extension that TRUFAN launched. Super, super easy. You literally just download it and start getting rewarded for doing browsing that you're already doing. It's available in Chrome, Safari, and Opera. You can also choose what data you don't want to share. Super easy interface. And you can basically earn points for, like I said, doing the browsing you're already doing. And you can convert those points into gift cards every single month. So I think it's more importantly, though, a great step forward in rewarding consumers for their data and being transparent about what data you are sharing. I think that has been very insightful for a lot of people. So it's just US and Canada right now, but we're going to expand.
So the 20% of people that listen to this that aren't in Canada, join the wait list. Because I think the audience is like 80% Canada, US. Like I think it's like 50 US, 35 Canada or something like that. But so maybe the 15%. Join the wait list. 2022, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Karen, but that's like, we'd like to expand. And not in like 10 years, like soon.
Yeah, Q1. We're planning Q1 to start expanding to possibly UK and other countries.
That's the thing. It's like the behavior doesn't change, which I think is the best part. It's not downloading a new extension. It's not doing anything different. It's doing what you're already doing and just getting some free money for it.
It's literally the most passive thing I've ever seen. I mean, other browser extensions are very like intrusive on your experience, like Grammarly, for example. I love it, but it is intrusive on your experience. This literally, you could literally download it and forget it.
Yeah, I pretty much did exactly that. I just keep browsing.
But I personally would like to see more products, maybe not from us necessarily, but just all up where they are rewarding us for the data that we're already sharing and just don't realize is being monetized.
No, that's a good call to mention that at the end, because it's like I said, 10,000 users in our first month. So I mean, there's definitely there's something there. I think there's going to be some education, of course, around it. Like just seeing the comments on social media, it's like a lot of people, they talk about how it's like, well, it's going to sell your data, and then it's always like, well, we're not taking anything new. Like this is the data you're already giving up. We're just paying you for it now. No one else is paying you for it.
Yeah, the data will only be shared with brands in an aggregated way, never down to an individual.
And anonymized. So all personal identifiers, name, phone number, email, all
no
gone.
PII.
That's it.
And not down to a person. Yeah.
And you can delete your data at any point in time.
And you can see what you're sharing day to day, hour by hour, if you want to. I'm trying to think what I would like. I think about like how much time I spend on YouTube. I would love to have all my YouTube hours and browsing and watching being, rewarded.
BRB, I'm gonna go surf, guys.
Well, we are giving away a Tesla. So anyone who downloads the extension and uses it before November 9th, you'll be automatically entered in to win a potential Tesla Model 3. So that'll be exciting.
When you're listening to this, you got under 2 weeks to sign up. So I'll make sure I link it in the show notes. So you can install Surf. It takes 30 seconds. And then you are entered to win a Tesla, and then you can start rewarding. And you can get more rewards, or more points, I should say, if you refer a friend and they start using Surf as well. So I think it's like 2,000 points, which is about $5, I believe, just for referring a friend. So quick way to make a couple bucks using Surf. So I would recommend it. Granted, I do work there. Granted, I did quit my agency to join full time because of Surf. So, I mean, I'm a believer, and I think you should be too.
Well, I thought it'd be good to just mention it because I love what we're doing in sort of changing or disrupting that whole space.
100%. 100%. But like I said, I'll make sure I link it in the show notes down below so people can find it. I'll also make sure, linking down below, I'll link where they can find both of you two and all of our stories. You can find Karen at @BondJaneBond on social media. Scott_Birdie. You can find both of them on LinkedIn as well. Like I said, everything will be linked in the show notes down below. So you can find it along with all of the stories. You can find me at @TheJacobKelly anywhere on social media. Feel free to come and say hello. My DMs are always open. As always, today's podcast is powered by TRUFAN. Thank you once again for listening, everybody. We'll talk soon.